Let's get more now on the apology from the chief executive of Thomas Cook for the deaths of two British children on holiday in Corfu in 2006. Christy and Bobby Shepherd died from carbon monoxide poisoning at a beach hotel. The company has faced increased criticism following a recent inquest into the deaths, with calls for a boycott of the firm. Well, we can speak now to Rita Clifton, who is a brand expert and chairs the brand consultancy Brandcap. She joins us from our studios in central London. Good afternoon to you. Thanks for being with us. What do you think of the way that this has been handled by Thomas Cook over the past 9 years?
Well, these are clearly exceptionally tragic and difficult circumstances, and if you have children yourself, some of it is just almost unwatchable. So, unfortunately, as far as Thomas Cook are concerned, the words much too little, much too late do come to mind. There are mitigating circumstances. They've had changes of chief executive, they've had legal issues, financial issues and so on, but they haven't really reflected any of the best practice in how to handle these situations. I mean, number one, you've got to own the problem. Even if it might be someone else's fault, you've got to own the problem. They're your customer. Secondly, you've got to make sure you go much further than is minimally necessary. Further financially, further in human terms, and further in terms of operational standards that you might set. And thirdly, you've got to communicate, and that means getting out there and communicating in a very human way in a digital world rather than behaving in an analogue world. And unfortunately, on all those three areas, Thomas Cook have not really reflected what a responsible company would ideally do.
So they didn't get anything right?
Not so far. Again, there are many, many complicating circumstances, and there are some very specific legal issues in this case that I know has made it very difficult. But in these circumstances, this is a very, very human event, a very human tragedy. From a company point of view, you've got to get out there and be human in the way that you talk about it. You cannot hide behind corporate press releases and legal challenges. That's not what your customers expect. That's not what the general public expects, and increasingly more so from companies today.
And there is a major legal aspect to this, of course, as you rightly pointed out. But are you saying that companies can remain within that legal framework and still treat the problem as they should do, given the human tragedy involved?
There are always things one can say as a human being, and actually it is possible to recover from these situations, because obviously there's a reputation problem, but Thomas Cook is a long-standing and leading brand, and if you've got a strong brand in the first place and some trust with customers, you can repair that, but everything depends on how they handle it now. If you remember what we were talking about with Toyota, for example, a few years ago, Toyota have recovered their position, but they did that by making sure the standards that they were operating were right back up to a leading edge. They had their chief executive out there talking in a very human way and very symbolic way as well. You can repair it, but everything depends on how they now behave over the next week or so. You've got to go much, much further than just the basic advice might suggest. What
can they do now, though? Because the CEO apologised today, finally 9 years on, but we've heard about efforts to boycott the firm on social networks. So what really can they do now? How damaging will it be in the long term?
Well, it can be very damaging in the long term if they don't show how they've learned from this situation. Clearly, there are some standards and processes that they need to make sure people understand that they are doing, and obviously the substance means that they've got to make sure that those are in place too. So reassuring people about what they're doing now, going way beyond what is just minimally and legally necessary, what standards are they adopting, and to make sure that they do engage in a very human way. Even if you can't say, this is exactly what happened, this is exactly what we're doing, you can at least. And the chief executive has just in the last half hour or so, or just today, come out and said they are deeply sorry. It is still quite in dependent language. You must just say, as a human being, I'm sorry. And even though it was another chief executive's watch where this happened, you are the brand leader here. You are the person who needs to take responsibility, to own the issue, even if it was another supplier that did it. That's what people expect from a responsible company. And if you put the right procedures and processes in place and express it in the right way, then of course you can recover.
Rita Clifton, very good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.